to 5, with the tackle box open Monday through Saturday, 7 to 6. Marine Service Pro is a full Suzuki and Tohatsu dealership. They deal in pre-owned boats, full service and repair, with certified technicians in all engines, and fiberglass specialists. The tackle box offers fresh local seafood, live bait, a tackle shop, and fish packing and shipping. They also offer a full-service U-Haul dealership. Spend time with Leon or Jenny for one-stop shopping at Marine Service Pro and the Tackle Box Seafood, 8210 River Road, Southport.
This week on All Things Brunswick, our guest will be Chad Adams. Chad will be joining us to discuss recent events in the news and much more. Join us 6 p.m. Tuesday right here on The Big Talker.
Hey, welcome back to the Asylum, your refuge in a world gone mad, right here on the Big Talker Network. Please visit our website at bigtalker.live, BIGTALKER.live. Download the app for Android and iOS devices. What else can you do? Peruse the schedule of content. Send an email asking why Chad Adams is not participating in the morning program. He will be on All Things Brunswick tomorrow night at 6 p.m. But you can, at any time, hit that email link, send us a comment, question, concern, compliment, or critique, because we can't improve without your help. And again, I would recommend in that email, everybody should just dial in, get an email made, and say, hey, Chad, Mr. Chad Adams, why aren't you doing the morning show? Why do you have this idiot? This liberal conservative, I don't know. You can label me all you want, but chances are you got it wrong, no matter how hard you try. But anyway, there's other cool things at the app where you can Bluetooth your pair, your Bluetooth pair, whatever that term is you kids use, with your car, automobiles, entertainment system, because, you know, SUVs and crossovers are vehicles as well, and they have entertainment systems. It's no longer just cars anymore. We've convoluted the issue, but nonetheless, if you pair your smart device with your automobile's entertainment system, you can take the Big Talker anywhere and everywhere you want or need to be. Now, I didn't have a subject until a subject came to me for this morning's rant, so I'm going to start with it. Don't ban books. Nothing good will come from it. Do not ban books. Banning books is bad. And if you are on a camp, if you are on a bandwagon, if you are on a troop or on a mission to ban books, Heil! Sieg Heil! And you're going to try it. One of the trolls was trying to tell me that they're putting Hustler in you're not upset they're putting Hustler in your... They're not putting Hustler in my library, you moron. They're putting a book. A book that you have a problem with. Did you catch that? That's a you problem. Not a me problem, right? He's like, well, what about your kids? What about them? I'll let them read. I'll pay them to read. Read any book you want. I don't care. If you're confused or upset or curious or whatever, come talk to me. But to tell a kid they can't read a book... Really? You can't enjoy sunshine either, because that's a communist son. I mean, it's getting stupid, ladies and gentlemen. And the problem is, with the decline of interest in education, I mean, y'all can get all upset about, you know, teacher shortages and everything else, but you, as parents, children, you know, themselves are not interested. They don't need it. They have an iPhone. They have everything they need. Even if it's not an iPhone. They're more interested in social media and being cute than they are about being educated and smart and able to navigate life's uncertainties. But instead, we seem to have this incredible push to want to ban a bunch of material, which does not make sense. Maybe you disagree with it. Get over it. There's a lot to disagree with. But to tell someone they cannot participate in something that you don't like, that's the type of oppression that led to the Third Reich. And if you don't have that in your head, then you need to go back and revisit some of these books that have been banned for decades. For example, on this banned book list that so many people are saying are fake, no, it's not. Look up each title and add the word banned, and it will tell you exactly when and where this book was banned in the school system. A Wrinkle in Time, for Christ's sake, has been banned since 1985. Around that same time, Orwell and, who's the other guy? I just had him in my head. Those books were banned. 84 banned. Animal Farm banned. Why? Oh, because we might figure out what's going on. Or we might be offended by some language that's in there. Oh my God, a word. A word was offensive. What words offend you? And is that enough to tell somebody else that they can't read it because you're offended? Right? That's like telling me I can't go to mosque because you're offended that I'm not a Christian. That's a foul. So if you're going to ban a book, and this guy was trying to say that these books are pornography. No, brah. If you don't know the difference between a book and a porn rag, obviously you need to read a book. One that doesn't have pictures. I had an aunt when I was a child. Well, I guess she's still my aunt, even though she's divorced from that part of the family. But when I was a child, she was still married, and she ran the local library when I went on vacation, and there were times that my parents were, well, it wasn't my dad. My dad was drunk at home, pretending to be important. Mom was off with family and friends. We were left to our own devices, and one of my favorite devices was the library card. And there wasn't a book, there were times that Aunt Tilly would, I'd pick out a book and she'd like, it was a good book. I have no problem with you reading it. I just don't know if you're ready for that level of language, right? Because I'm in like 6th grade, 7th grade, and I'm trying to read Atlas Shrugged. The concepts weren't inaccessible. Some of the words might have been, right? I spent as much time with the dictionary as I did reading the book. It expanded my vocabulary. I mean, there's 500,000 words in the English language, give or take, depending on what you consider a legitimate word. Apparently, emoticon is still up for debate as to whether it's really a word or not, but, that's good. I would rather have that discussion than being handed a list of books that I am not allowed to read or that are not available to the library because somebody else thought it was something they shouldn't read. That's a fear problem on their part. That is, they don't, and it's systemic. This is why I'm thinking that y'all upset about CRT. You're upset about disclosing the systemic issues prevalent in all of our societies. And it's not just a skin tone. It's religious. I mean, look at Afghanistan right now. That same mentality in Afghanistan would prevail here to prevent people from going to school, to prevent girls from learning to read, that sort of thing. So if you're talking about individual and personal freedoms on one hand, and then turning around and determining what books I'm allowed to read, that's a complete foul and hypocrisy at the highest level. What books wouldn't you want to read? That's on you. Long ago, I read the Bible, didn't enjoy it. Some of the passages were, what's the word I'm looking for? Romantic in a way, right? Idyllic. The teachings of Jesus. But a lot of it was still indicative of the time where somebody needed to find a way of controlling, but we didn't understand capitalism to the level we do now. Okay, preparing for the next guest. He is a conservative GOP chairperson in Brunswick County. And he and I do a lot of tug of war over some issues. But we've never actually gotten mad at each other. Because conservative ideas and fiscal responsibility and personal accountability and personal freedoms, they make sense. Those are legit complaints. They are. I want the personal freedom to choose what books I can read. I don't want some committee telling me what books I can read, because I don't trust anyone who thinks they know better than I what is good for me. Couple of exceptions when I was young, my parents, at least my mom, or my brother, right? Hey, if you climb that tree and fall out, you're going to get hurt. No, I won't. Okay, now I know. But I've never been intimidated or scared by a book. And anyone who would think to ban or burn a book is obviously not aware of how the Third Reich came to power. Even in Germany, they teach what happened. They teach from Anne Frank's diary, using it as a reference. We can't do that in America anymore. Oh no, that's too upsetting. That's too offensive. Oh my goodness. Oh, we can't talk about gay people. Oh my God, because then it'll make my kid gay. What? No. I tell you what, one of the books about self-discovery, and I read it. I can't remember the title of it now. It was an ebook thing that somebody sent me, and they were like, "Isn't this horrible?" I said, "No. This is a person's journey that they documented, and in that journey, they discovered that they are not the normal person their parents wanted them to be. And the bigger exposure is how everybody else reacted. Right? I mean, if you want to dye your hair blue, wear a dress, I don't care. Should you? Does it bother you? Why does it bother you? Because you are so repressed yourself? Or that you just want some sort of power and control and want to have some sort of superiority over your neighbor? Is that it? That's probably more accurate. But I doubt that you can be honest enough with yourself to admit it. I am. There's a lot of books out there that are horrible, that are absolutely terrible. But you wouldn't know it until you read it. So if you're just going to ban books because, oh my God, it has the word naked in there, or it has some sort of sexual fantasy in there, guess what? You had one. You've had more than one. We all have. It's part of being human. And books are nothing more than the extension of the human experience that we can share with other people. And what's really cool about books, and I think this is what terrifies people, is that print is perpetuity. That is, once a book is printed, it's there. Video can go away, right? You can erase a video, etc., but you can't unprint a book. You can't unmalleable those ideas. By malleable, I mean gold. Gold is a very malleable metal that can be shaped and etched and all kinds of things. It's a soft metal. That's our brain. Our brains are kind of soft. They're meant to be. They're meant to absorb. They're meant to flex. They're meant to process information. But if you're banning a book, that's information that you or someone is saying is not appropriate for public consumption. How are you? Maybe you yourself are not for public consumption. Troll. Now, I can get behind one aspect, and it was sort of what my Aunt Tilly did. Are you sure you're ready for that language? Are you sure you're ready for the words? Right? Because reading a book is not a big deal, especially if you don't know the language. So you could easily scan through any one of these tomes and not glean a damn thing out of it because you don't know how to read. You're just looking at the words as they go by, blah, 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 and then you look for the one that bothers you. And then suddenly you're an expert on literature. I mean, if you want to get down to it, there's a couple of Dr. Seuss books that should be, setting your butt on fire. Right? The Snorlax, talking about saving the trees. There's some verbiage in there that would upset some industrialists. So keep in mind, when somebody's trying to ban a book, there's going to be an agenda behind it. Why do you want to ban a book? Oh, because it's about homosexuality. When has homosexuality bothered you? I mean, you can call me 910-444-0281. You can pop into the chat. But I'm not hearing a lot of pushback. I just hear a lot of ban the books, and then they run away like cockroaches in the sunlight when you confront them with any sort of awareness. Right? I mean, how do you think the Third Reich came to power? Some sort of vacuum? No. It started with little things like banning books, burning books, vilifying that which is normal. I mean, Cain and Abel and the rock, it wasn't the rock. Same thing with the guns. So gun legislation is insane. What we need to do is find a way to inspire people to not be criminals. And if they still want to be criminals and they want to, carry around a gun and fire randomly into the street, then yeah, you should die the way you live and get out of our society. Our tolerance for that is ridiculous. So banning books, not a good idea. And if you are going to ban a book, let's start with the Bible. Let's start with the Quran. Let's start with the Torah, because they have started more wars and killed more people throughout history than any of these other books. Oh my God, the word penis is in the book. Oh! Well, you're going to have a hard time with biology, aren't you? Gametes and spermatozoa and eggs and ova. Your head's just going to explode. Oh my God, we can't study science. It has nasty, dirty, pornographic words in there. Instead, we should learn about sex from the Bible. What? No. Here again, banning any book is a bad idea. There is the interest, and this is where parents are failing in droves. Entire generations of parents have failed their children by not participating in their education. And I would even throw my own parents in this. They were just worried about the results. Am I getting A's and B's, or am I getting C's and D's? And if I'm getting C's and D's, they go to the teacher and got upset. And the teacher had a good rebuttal or rebuff or whatever, and it's like, look, your kid is smart, but he's an asshole. Straight up. I was not, and this is a reflection of my home life. But nobody bothered to look at that. They all wanted to blame the teachers and the school. Nobody wanted to take a look at the family and say, maybe your child is acting out in response to a hostile environment. And when you're in an abusive household, one of the safest places you can go is inside a book. Dad never hit me when I was reading a book. A lot of other times he hit me and he wasn't paying attention or caring nothing, but reading a book in my room, I was safe. So yeah, I will defend books and music and arts. I will die on that hill. Gladly. So when I see this book in Florida, there was a meme that popped up and it listed all these books and the guy's like, oh, that's fake news, that's fake news. I was like, really? I looked up each book followed by the word banned and it told me exactly where and when this book has been banned. Like A Wrinkle in Time, very first book on the list. He said, that's not on the banned list. And I said, yeah, actually it was banned before you were born, dude. Shut up, sit down. This book was banned in 1985. A Wrinkle in Time. It's a sci-fi. What you afraid of? What you reading for? If reading is that much of a problem, then don't read the book. It's just like if you don't like Lawrence Welk, change the channel. If you don't like Trevor Noah, change the channel. If you don't like Sean Hannity, change the channel. Or turn it off. Read a book. Go outside. Play Frisbee. Get involved with your kids. Ask them what they're reading. Read what they're reading. Oh my God. It's a biology book. It's got the word sperm in it. Oh. You see how ridiculous this is? And it is a slope. It is hardcore a slope. And this is where I think the school board should have said, you know, these are books that some of the parents have found questionable. And I would solicit every parent to read these books and get back with us. Maybe there is an age appropriate like we do with movies, right? I mean, we should do this with some of the rap music because I think, you know, swinging about drugging and thugging and killing and looting to a 5-year-old, probably, you know, I'd much rather go bonkers listening to Baby Shark than some sort of thug rap. But hey, we have no problem with that. But oh my God, they discussed homosexuality as I can't take it anymore. The world is ugly, ladies and gentlemen. The world is extremely ugly. And for our kids to be prepared for that kind of ugliness is not going to happen in a vacuum. It's not going to happen in a sterilized environment where everything is approved. Oh, no, I don't want to see that because, you know, that sweater is just too suggestive and I don't want my child. What? And the moment your child is 18 and runs the hell away from your home, they're going to be encountering all kinds of stuff that you did not prepare them for. That's you. Your fear, your inability to process, your inability to accept the world the way it is and trying to paint some rosy picture over it and then hand it to your kids and kick them out the door. No. I mean, that's one of the advantages to growing up in an abusive household is that I already know. I already know what pain feels like. So when I get into the workforce and I got a gash on my leg and I'm still working, the guy's like, don't you need stitches? I said, yeah, I'll get it later. Right? Because the work needs to happen first, and I've already been through the toughening. Right? I've already had my head smashed before I even knew my own name, so there ain't nothing you can do that's going to bother me much. But on top of that, I'm also prepared for the sickness in some people's minds on how they feel superior, either by religion or some other axis that they want to consider themselves an expert on. All right? Many of these people have never read the Constitution. We had to study it. It took an entire year to get through the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, how they came to be, what they mean, why they came to be. We don't discuss that anymore. Now we're just upset about, oh my God, there's a homosexual reference in a book. Oh, it's going to ruin my kids. How weak are your children? If you think a few words is going to turn them into a predatory gay monster or something, it's just ridiculous. Get over yourself. If you've given authors that much power over what you teach in your own home, that is absolutely ridiculous. And I bet a lot of parents would refuse to allow Joseph Campbell's book, The Masks of God, into their house. Ridiculous. Ridiculous. But hey, let's just ban everything. Let's ban sports because you might get hurt. Let's ban music because, there are bad ideas there. I mean, lots of songs about sex in pop music and rap music and country music and rock music and opera music, the marriage of figure. Come on. You're going to have to ban everything. Once you open that gate, you're not going to get it closed. So don't try to tell me that you know what books should be read, what books shouldn't be read. You're full of crap. Nobody should be allowed to determine what books can be read and what books can't. But if there is a book that raises any questions, I think the parents should be allowed to participate in that conversation, not just a blanket ban by some hypersensitive school board. That's ridiculous and against the rules. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back after these messages right here on the Big Talker. We will have our guest, Mr. Bill Moore, the chair of the Brunswick County GOP, a gentleman that I get to work with every Tuesday evening, and it's a lot of fun. With that in mind, let's see. One of these buttons will get me to the advertisements. I think it's this one. So please don't go nowhere. The Asylum, your refuge in a world gone mad. Be right back after this.
Hello, I'm Matt Bennett with WWAY News. Law enforcement around the Cape Fear say they are training staff on how to respond to an active shooter situation in schools. The New Hanover County Sheriff's Office held an active shooter training at Anderson Elementary School Saturday morning. More than 60 school resource officers geared up to go to the threat and eliminate the threat, which is the motto of their mission. The Sheriff's Office plans to conduct multiple training sessions of this type throughout the year. After a 2-year hiatus, Coffee with a Cop is back in Brunswick County. The public joined the police chief and officers from the Leland Police Department Saturday at the Starbucks on Leland Town Center Drive for caffeine and conversation. Mugs, pens, and stickers were given away to those who showed up. Officers said the event offers the community an opportunity to ask questions, voice concerns, and get to know the people behind the badge. The monthly event took a pause due to the pandemic. Chief Jeremy Humphreys says it's nice to get back and have meaningful conversations with the community. Renovations to the Riverwalk Visitor Center at the foot of Market Street are scheduled to get underway today. Construction is expected to last for 4 months and includes replacing deck boards and removing the roof and furnishings in the picnic area. The project also includes the addition of new landscaping, decorative overhead string lights, stools, and banner poles. Both the restrooms and visitor information booth of the building will remain open during normal hours. And Surf City officials asked the public to help clean up the beach, and they didn't disappoint. About 250 volunteers rolled up their sleeves, grabbed trash bags and pickers to collect trash found at all 39 beach accesses. Volunteers were shuttled to and from the beach in groups. Surf City spokesperson Misty LaPointe says the family-friendly event is typically held twice a year, once before tourist season starts to welcome visitors, and then toward the end of summer to wrap up the season. For more on these stories, you can head on over to WWAYTV3.com. I'm Matt Bennett. Have a great day.
Happy Monday, everybody. I'm WWAY meteorologist Ramel Carpenter with your Storm Track 3 forecast. Definitely going to be unsettled over the next few days here in the Cape Fear, so be sure to have the rain gear with you if you're going to be out and about at any point in the day today. The best chance to see widely scattered showers and thunderstorms will fire back up this afternoon as our high temperatures only manage to get into the middle 80s for inland and coastal communities. Overnight tonight, rain chances start to drop down under mostly cloudy skies, but a few showers can't be ruled out for the overnight hours. Temperatures will be falling down into the low to middle 70s. Get your full forecast on WWAY and WWAYTV3.com.
This news and weather is brought to you by Two Men and a Truck. For your free quote, go to twomenandatruck.com. twomenandatruck.com.
Marine Service Pro and the Tackle Box Seafood, located at 8210 River Road, Southport, is open Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, with the Tackle Box open Monday through Saturday, 7 to 6. Marine Service Pro is a full Suzuki and Tohatsu dealership. They deal in pre-owned boats, full service and repair with certified technicians in all engines and fiberglass specialists. The Tackle Box offers fresh local seafood, live bait, a tackle shop, and fish packing and shipping. They also offer a full-service U-Haul dealership. Spend time with Leon or Jenny for one-stop shopping at Marine Service Pro and the Tackle Box Seafood, 8210 River Road, Southport.
Enjoying Big Talker Network is as easy as asking for it. Program your digital home assistants such as Google Home, Alexa, and Siri to stream Big Talker Network content by simple voice command. Enjoy convenient hands-free access to the program whenever you want, however you want, by asking for Big Talker.
Hey, welcome back to the Asylum, your refuge in a world gone mad. Already having an over-the-top discussion with our friend Mr. Bill Moore from the Brunswick County GOP, the chairperson down there. And a quick reminder, go to the Big Talker website, download the app for Android and iOS device, all the other good stuff. How you doing, Bill?
Good morning. It's a good rainy day, and we can use the rain, so not a problem.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it did ruin my gig over the weekend. I was going to play outside on a wonderful, lovely patio. However, the grayishness of the skies and the wetness made it very, very difficult, and we decided not to do it. Anyway, so the discussion that we were having, and it's still a craw and will always be, is the limitation of access to information, books, etc., etc. Now, we do seem to agree on some sort of age appropriateness, which I think the parents should at least have some sort of influence on. But the real discussion is, as you pointed out just before we came on air, is that we're not letting kids be kids anymore. We shove an electronic device in their hands unattended and let them explore the world through a screen.
Oh, that's a good part of it, and we're also forcing kids to grow up by what they're watching on television, and they're not really ready for that stuff yet. I mean, let them be kids. Let them run around, play around. You know, God, I don't know what age I was still thinking girls were icky and whatever. But, you know, that changes.
Right.
That changed.
Fall out of a tree, you know, fall off your bike. Go get hurt. Get dirty.
Get out and exercise, which is a good idea.
Yeah.
You know, get away from that little machine and get out there and energy. You know, what drives me nuts is when I even see my own grandkids at a table and they're texting each other across from each other.
Yeah.
Drives me nuts. Talk. Have face-to-face interaction. And, I refuse to talk to my kids and grandkids on text. You know, they can send me a message as they call me. If it's a one-word answer, I'll give them a one-word answer. But if you want to talk to me, you will call me. You will have direct with me, and you will learn how to talk to people and not fall behind that little machine that's a cop-out, because we're raising kids that can't address each other's and talk to each other. They have to sit and talk to each other on a machine.
And that's where I think the adage, just because we can doesn't mean we should. The fact that I can text you does not necessarily mean it's the best means of contacting you about something. Like, trying to do what we're doing now by text would be just ludicrous.
No, I can see a purpose, for example, if I say, TK, you're free to talk for a minute. And if you say yes, I call you, you call me. You know, that does not intrude in any great number.
Or are you open at 4 or 5? 5.
Right.
Boom. I don't need,
like that.
So this is where the women have an advantage over men, as outlined in Wired magazine back in the 80s. They did a neurological comparison of how we communicate as men and women. Women have more social connections in their brain than we do. Men tend to work lobe by lobe. We're either using the left half or the right half of our brain. We don't really mesh the two. Women are able to access all 4 lobes during a conversation, which is why when my mom would call and make, sure that the rehearsal for the opera coming up was going to happen at this place at this time, but it was a 2-hour phone call because their social life was very much a part of that information. Whereas for most of us men, it's straight up. What time? 6 o'clock. Where at? Bar. See ya.
Yeah. End of discussion. But you also remember women, by virtue, even going historically now, with running a home and whatever else, had to be multitaskers from day one.
Oh yeah,
You've got kids, you got food to cook. You got, and again, I'm not being sexist. I'm just talking historically. What was going on in our country? You've got homes to maintain. You got 100 things going on. If back in my age, my mom took care of the school issues. My father worked. So there were all things that, and they had to be able to do multitask. So that doesn't surprise me when you get into the fact that they can do multiple things with the brain, because it basically had to evolve that way by the social issue they were in growing up.
And these issues are not going to go away just because a book has been placed on a banned list. And that was the thing that got me, was how far back these books had been banned. 1984 has been banned since the 1980s in many school districts.
That's an excellent book to read. As a matter of fact, in many cases, I draw parallels. I've written a column on that. Are we in 1984 in 2022?
Mm-hmm. Some of it is good, some of it isn't. But the problem is we've disconnected with each other. That it's now such a divide across any axis you want to pick, whether it's education, whether it's race, right? I think the upsetness over the CRT is sort of misplaced. They're more upset about, it seems that people are more upset about the term than they are about the reality. That there have been systemic problems throughout society across the planet. But if we can't address it and speak of it in a normal conversation without using extreme rhetoric to get there, I don't think we'll ever solve that.
Yeah, but the problem with CRT was, I understand what you're saying, but when you're doing something like that, you've got to have facts that are provable, and not just because you've decided they're a fact makes them a fact. There's an old line out there that truth is truth whether you believe it or not.
Right. I mean, that's like science. The fact that gravity is gravity and does what it does is independent of your belief in a flat Earth.
That's exactly correct. But in CRT, in many areas, they started with suppositions that are just someone's beliefs rather than facts. And when you start teaching that rather than facts to kids, you're swaying kids one way or the other.
Well, one of the facts is that there are no poor people in office or on staff or in the aids of D.C., and the simple reason for that is that it is impossible to live in BC or DC on a staffer's salary unless your family is rich.
Not anymore. If you look at the latest stats out there, the richest communities in the country surround Washington, D.C.
Yep.
And there's a reason for that, because they're paying them so well. It used to be
not
years
the
ago,
staffers. We just had Andrew Donaldson, who had 3 staffers on his, I know he had 1, but he had 2 others in his reference, and all of them were saying pretty much the same thing. If my family wasn't rich enough to pay my rent, there's no way I could do my job and live. Which is the same as saying that flipping burgers is not going to get you to, support your family of 3 in a nice house. But I think that one of these should be sustainable and the other one should be transitory. That is
it any different that when you start at any company and, you start at the basement and work up? If you're going to work your way to something in a leadership position, you start at a low paying job in the mailroom, for example, or something else. And then as you learn, as you progress, you start as an intern, you start as an apprentice, and you work your way up. And until you get to a place where you can afford, you got problems. You may be living with your parents. You may be sharing an apartment with 2 or 3 people. But eventually, if you have your goals going, you're going to break out of that and you're going to move up to where you can be on your own. That's just reality.
I think that's where, because I have to step aside. That's Andrew's strength, because he did that research. I'm just remembering that conversation, was astounded by what the guest had to say about it. And it was pretty systemic in nature. I mean, there's a lot of things that have been proven to be systemic, whether we call it critical race or not. There are issues in our society that need to be addressed, and I think we need to stop being afraid of the terms and start getting into how did we get to where we are? Why are we banning books? Why are we having trouble populating certain aspects of a city? Why are we having trouble filling these roles with people that are not exactly the same as the people that were there before?
Well, that's different than starting out with suppositions where everybody is wrong and everybody is dirty and everybody is a racist. And that's unfortunately what CRT that with.
I think it may have been misconstrued and stretched to that extreme.
Oh, no, I've done the research on this one, my friend. Not at all. I mean, when you start out with the fact, if you want to destroy this country, and I'm going to go into some of the conservative side of this now,
Okay.
you need to destroy the basis for the country. How do you do that? You need to destroy the Constitution. And to do that, you need to destroy the people who wrote it. And that's exactly what's going on now. There's not one founder that's a decent person. They were all evil slave owners, et cetera, et cetera. In fact, that's not true. Some were, some weren't. The Constitution decided that slaves were not people. That's not true either. That was decided it was basically decided for census counts, and that's all because the South, who had slavery, wanted to count slave as a full person because it increased their numbers in Congress, and the North was saying no, they're not citizens per se, as we are right now. We can't. So that was a 3/5 compromise that came out. Had nothing to do per se. They wanted to do away with slavery, but unfortunately, they didn't for another 60 or 70 years.
We were one of the last countries on the planet to abolish slavery.
Well, I got a surprise for you. Slavery is bigger today than it ever was.
So, well, it's certainly not state sanctioned here.
No, but it is bigger worldwide. There is more slaves going on worldwide now than we had back in the 17th, 18th century.
So all we got to do is teach them how to read, and that'll stop.
No.
Well, it'll certainly help. We drop a bunch of Animal Farm 1984 in every language available and see if that doesn't make some sort of difference. Snowball going to come out of that barn all kinds of pissed off.
Oh, I'm not even going there.
Now,
anyway, we can shift gears a little bit because there's something important to talk about. And I'm not saying that what you and I are talking was important, but something bothered me from last week, and it's not political per se. So I'm going off the political realm. I'm just getting into something that's a regional issue, and that's Novant Health, New Hanover County Regional Medical Center.
Oh, there was a lot of money, and we don't know where it is. At least I don't.
Beyond that, I don't know if anybody caught it. It was played up last week in the papers. At least I think it was WECT. It turns out that in July, the feds came in from Medicare. They looked at what was going on in New Hanover County, Novant County Regional Center, and they basically said to them that based on the findings that we have, on August 22nd, we will stop giving you permission. We will not pay you for Medicare patients anymore, and on August 12th, we'll stop paying anyway until we get to August 22nd. So all of a sudden, now that's a big deal.
Did they inherit this mess, or is this a new policy that Novant put in?
This is something new.
So it's not a carryover from New Hanover's medical.
No, before that they were doing well. This is Novant Health.
Now, and Novant's only been in power over this for what, 8 months?
Maybe a little longer than that. Maybe a year.
Maybe a year, and they're already in this deep doo-doo.
Now, what was the problem? And this is the scary part. They were talking about it all centers around patient care and especially the emergency rooms. They were
where they're dying to get in?
8 or 9 hours waiting to see somebody, and there were actually people died in the waiting room waiting to be seen by a doctor.
That's why I don't go to hospitals. That's where you go to die.
And unfortunately, the feds came in and said, we will suspend your ability to take Medicare patients, or we're not going to pay you for them, which was a regional issue for everybody. For example, in Brunswick, about 33% of our people are over 65, and in New York County, it's about 19%. So you had a major issue now. So on August 11th, supposedly the state came down to represent the feds, and they checked out the issues. And in theory, they said they fixed them, but they're not. They're waiting. They have not received a letter yet from the feds saying, "Okay, you're off the hook." So right now, they're continuing to pay, and they anticipate the letter because they got a verbal saying you did okay. They haven't seen it in writing. My concern is how we got there.
Yeah. Novant must have had some sort of new policy or a policy of their own that when they took over the network, as it were, this policy was in was not in compliance with, man.
Well, I'm sure most of it is staffing issues.
I was going to say, do we have any numbers on how many people left when Novant came in? I mean,
No, I don't have that data.
Because if we're running in a deficit, then yeah, they should have cried foul and please help us long ago.
But they paid over $1 billion to take over this hospital system. And my concern is the quality of care for the region is in danger, because if that's we don't know if that's the iceberg or the tip of the iceberg.
And was there any? Because I don't remember there being a lot of pushback as to why would we want Novant to take over New Hanover Health. Was New Hanover failing?
No, New Hanover was fine. The problem was hospitals are expensive to run, and the county saw two things. They saw the ability to get they were having to fund some of it, so they thought the ability of saving dollars. They were going to get a large chunk of money. That money was going to go in the bank, and they were going to live off that interest, which comes to about round figures, about $50 million a year on interest that they get off that money in the bank. And you
could run a hospital with that money.
Well, they're supposed to be taking that money to do things within the county to better things. Yet, someone said the other day they've seen nothing that they've done with that money yet. We're raising taxes in New Hanover County. The conditions in a lot of areas are not good. What's going on? And but my biggest concern right now is Novant Health and the quality of healthcare, because that's scary when the feds come in and say, we're going to shut you down so we won't pay for Medicare patients because your care is that bad.
Now, would that affect their ability to work in network or whatever the term is for insurance companies? Like, would Blue Cross Blue Shield say, no, you can't go there?
Directly. However, many of the insurance companies have deals with the hospitals where they pay a certain percentage, maybe Medicare plus a certain percentage for their services for their people. So if Medicare backs out, it doesn't directly affect them, but long term it will.
That's going to be bothersome, because if they've lost their accreditation with the feds, they're going to start losing accreditation with everyone else.
Yeah, well, first of all, we're
going to go back to country doctors, aren't we? Each doctor got their own little office. Huh?
And where do they go, Tika? You look around here, Novant owns the world with the exception of Dosher down in Brunswick. And as far as I know, that's the only, and I don't know what's up in Bender, but Dosher in Brunswick is the only independent hospital at this point in the immediate area.
That's kind of like the internet issue out here. We only have the one company or whatever. That doesn't lead to a lot of competition and innovation and price management, right? Because the more people that are offering burgers, for example, they're battling each other to make sure that their burger is the best and most affordable. So if we were to have 3 or 4 hospitals in the area, we would have some competition and probably a little better pricing. Same with internet, same with bookstores.
To be fair, to Novant, the only piece of their action was New Hanover County that was questioned. It was not Novant and Brunswick and things like that. Now, so all I can tell you is it was specific to New Hanover region that this thing was paid.
Well, that's what makes me think that it was like maybe an inherited problem that no one had pointed out yet.
Either that or it was a problem of transfer. When you transfer of power, if you will, from one group to the other.
So currently there's no Medicare coverage in New Hanover County?
No, that's not true. They were told that on the 22nd it would stop. Everything's on hold because at this point they got a verbal saying you passed from the state. The feds haven't written down yet, so everything is still going on as normal. It was supposed to shut down today, but they're on a holding pattern until they get that letter that says it's okay. So right now people can go there and with Medicare and they can be treated. So let's make that clear.
Oh, thank goodness.
And for them, I really think that. And hopefully, the hospital is taking the appropriate steps to address these issues permanently, and not just a Band-Aid to get through the situation.
We do tend to do that as humans: is just put Band-Aids over bullet wounds and carry on like nothing's wrong.
And that almost ties indirectly to Dale Falwell. who's our state treasurer. Dale has been fighting. He's been in the job 4 years now, and he has been fighting tooth and nail with the hospital industry because he's trying to get transparency in the hospitals. He wants you to get a bill that outlines what everything costs, how much did the aspirin cost, exact right down the line, so you can see an itemized bill of what's there. You don't get that nowadays.
And I would also like the ability that if you're going to prescribe aspirin, I have some in my backpack. Don't give me a $14 pill. I got the 50-cent version in my bag.
Oh, I understand that completely. Dale has been fighting that, and the hospital associations are pulling all their political weight to make sure it doesn't happen because they don't want to give you an itemized bill. They don't want you to know, and I'm thinking numbers now, that aspirin could be $10. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
I just remember, but they're not going to let you know that if they possibly can. So that's an issue that long term we have to be looking at with the hospitals. And this is not a political issue. This is a Democrat-Republican issue.
No, this is a human being health issue.
Yeah, this is people. And, someone needs to be on top of Novant Health. And some of the side stories off this would be if New Hanover County is getting $50-60 million a year in interest, why are they raising everything? That's a side issue. We don't have time today to get into it.
We'll do that tomorrow night.
Probably no. Tomorrow night we have Chad Adams on.
Who lives he doesn't live in New Hanover, that's right. But I'm sure that his interest in healthcare goes far beyond my own, I'll say that.
Yes, and I think he's a very knowledgeable person, especially on the workings of the state level and down. So I think an interesting interview with him tomorrow night.
That's why it's such a shame he's not on in the morning, because he is so well aware. He's very articulate and able to unpack all the crap that's being hidden through the rhetoric and the paperwork and the filings and all the other crap.
There's nobody better at unpeeling an onion.
Yeah, and I tell you what, do me a favor, send him an email using the bigtalker.live website email link, and just ask, why isn't Chad Adams on the morning show? Everybody should ask that question. I ask that question every day. Otherwise, you end up with a liberal hippie like me that's all about banning books and putting gay men in everything about this is just so retarded. It just, I'm glad I had parents that were willing to let me read any book, anytime, no problem. Because I don't think Danielle Steele is the best author that America has ever produced. But her books have sold more than you want to. But Harry Potter is banned, but we can read Danielle Steele. I'm having a real hard time with the inconsistencies in what books are banned and what books are not.
But again, that one of the problems there is school boards have been fighting for local autonomy, and and we do community issues around the world. So there's a balance there that you're going through a transition time right now where power is coming back to school boards, or they're trying to get that power back. And once they get it, I hate to use the analogy, but because it's not 100% there. But the French Revolution, once they took over, there were 2 years of chaos until they finally settled down and they started running the country again. So that's just normal when things change abruptly and drastically. To try to balance things out and make it work again takes some time and effort from a lot of people. So I'm looking forward to that taking care of itself.
Same here.
I want to talk about Dale Folwell and free money.
Pretty please. The cash.
NC Cash.
NCCash.com. Okay. Thank you.
just reminding people that, because I put it out the other day on a website, and I had 2 people write back and say, my husband has money coming, thank you. So I'm not getting a cut from it, but at least they're being happy.
Well, we can. I mean, just 10%. Bill Moore, I think, is the Venmo, or you can send cash.
Before you know the end, I will have the State Board of Elections looking at me, seeing what I'm up to down here. No, don't you get me in trouble. Ain't happening.
We'll call it a tithe. How's that?
People need to just pay attention to what's going on in New Hanover, and hopefully this has been fixed. But it's something that it's concerning for the lives of everybody. Senior citizens, they're the ones that use hospitals the most at their age, and they need it. And if they're not going to get paid for it because it's not quality care, there's 2 issues there. 1, they can't afford it, and 2, the care needs to stay up to the
Yeah, the care
standards.
may kill them.
Right. So we need to stay on top of that and keep an eye on it and ensure that New Hanover Regional, and it's the hospital, main hospital that they were talking about, not even the satellite one. It was the main hospital.
Wow.
So
It's the big one over on 17th.
Yeah. That's
with
where
the big crosswalk right across the street and all the fancy. Wow.
So, hopefully they've done what they're supposed to do and they're up and they're going to stay. They're going to get the letter saying everything's beautiful.
Can we buy it back?
I don't think. But if you let Dale Fowell involved, he'll get them to buy it back.
Yeah, because I think that might make more sense. Let's just buy it back and kick these guys to the curb. Maybe even report them to the feds for untoward business activities and risking human life. I don't know. I'm just angry this morning, and part of it is being attacked personally for my belief, which is unfair. But I'm okay with that. I mean, I'm used to unfair attacks. I mean, my dad started it when I was 3, so bring it. I can take it. That's not a problem.
Yeah, the problem is that if you believe, people who say they're never attacked for what they believe in are either liars or they don't publish what they believe. They don't believe anything. I get clobbered like you do on a regular basis.
Yeah, if you haven't pissed somebody off, you're not doing your job.
Right, and you really have an issue because if you're not putting out what you believe there, then you need to accept what's happening to you. It's like the election coming up, whatever side you're on, and I know which side I'd like you to be on, but you need to vote. You need to get out there and vote. And vote your conscience, vote the people there, check out the people running.
Even if you write in somebody, if you don't like anybody there, you can nominate your own.
Yeah, you can do a write-in. It doesn't really, unless the two people running are so terrible that you couldn't support either one.
Okay, name me a race where that's not true.
Oh, we haven't got that much time.
We'll have to cover that one tomorrow.
But I really think long term, getting out to vote and solving, that's how we solve our issues, because there's only 2 choices. If you vote or you don't vote. And if you don't vote, as far as I'm concerned, you've lost the right to complain.
Yep.
So, once you voted, you didn't get what you want. You have a right to complain about what's going on. But if you choose to sit it out, then keep your mouth shut and don't get involved.
Yep, just head yourself on over to the happy hour ice cream joint and just, suck on a spoon.
Oh, I like that one. I'm going to borrow that.
Not a problem. I mean, that's where I'm at with it. It's like, if you're really that upset but aren't willing to do anything else, just go get you a sundae, suck the spoon, and leave me alone.
And I laugh at the people who say my vote won't count. Well, your vote does count. If you're, as I tell people on our side, on the Republican side, that, they're going to play games and they're going to cheat again. I said, well, it could be. But if we turn out enough votes, it doesn't matter what they do.
And the other side of it is, in many of the elections that statement is almost true, meaning there's 330 million people, my one vote isn't going to move 330 million people. However, it can determine, for example, in the story I had the other day, where the referendum generated by a panel, nobody voted. Nobody showed up. Not even the people who created the referendum. Nobody voted. Nobody showed up. Not even the people on the panel. Not even the people who made it. You feel me?
And, there have been numerous cases from state level down where someone's won an election by 20 votes, 30 votes, 5 votes. Yeah. And it's been certified that way. So does your vote count? Absolutely. Yes. And as you get lower and lower into the counties and in the municipalities, the vote becomes even more important.
And that's the part that I don't think is being emphasized enough. The further down the ballot you go, the greater influence an individual vote has on the outcome. So if you vote for the first 4 or 5 people that have logos in their campaign, or have some nifty statement like guns, babies, Jesus, or whatever that woman had, then you're obviously not voting with any sense of conscience. You're voting based on your eyeballs and your emotions like an advertisement. This is the same way we choose what crackers we want or which cookies we prefer. But when voting for somebody, you got to have something, the 15 people at the bottom of the list, your city councilor, commissioners, county commissioners, judges, sheriff, these are the people that are going to be in your neighborhood. These are the people that you're handing power over your individual direct life.
And probably have the most influence on your life.
And they get the least attention. But all the ones with the logo.
I'll give you an example in support of what you're saying. In Brunswick County in 2020, there were roughly 96,000 votes cast total, Democrat, Republican, whatever. Of that, when you look at the vote for president, combining both Trump and Biden, and you look at the last person on that ballot, there was a 9,900 vote difference where people didn't go down the ballot and fill it in. So that's like 11% of the people never finished the ballot.
They only voted for the sexy people.
Yeah, the people, up top, and everything else doesn't matter. And that's just kind of odd. And I'm going to take you one quick direction before you throw me off. I'm not sure that everybody knows what's just happened about the voter ID issue.
Is that still a thing?
It's still a thing. And as a matter of fact, the Democrats, all four of them in the state, in North Carolina's Supreme Court, just voted to send the case back to the judge who already decided it was illegal, saying, you need to get more information. Basically, it's being sued. NAACP has put a suit out there saying, well, some of the elected officials that voted for this in the General Assembly were from counties that we feel is racially unbalanced, and therefore their votes shouldn't count. And therefore we want it thrown out, and the Constitution should be made unconstitutional. Well, my first response to that is, if that's the case and you want to push that one, then technically everything that legislature did for 2 years is thrown out. If it applies to one, it applies to everything. You just can't cherry pick. It's
kind of like what Chadburn's going through after the discovery and hiring and firing and arrest of Anthony Spivey, the chief of police. The state has had to take over a number of prosecutions because in one case, during a homicide, Anthony Spivey, as police chief, sold the weapon used in the homicide to a friend of his. So everything he did while he was chief of police has come under extreme stupid scrutiny. And I think it's Ben David that's having to unpack and fix all this.
Yep.
And I'm speechless. I'm the type of anger speechless that it's like, how did we get here? Who thought it was a good idea to put this guy in power?
Following what you're talking about, if you can prove a prosecutor, for example, did something illegal, hid something or created something even worse, to win one case, every case that person tried is now suspect.
Yep.
And it could end up going back to court. So felons in jail, whatever else, now have a right to a retrial if the judges agree. And that's just frightening. But
it is. So a little more dotting the I's and crossing the T's and a little less, flamboyant rhetoric in the public eye. It would be my request.
The voter ID was passed by 55 to 60% of the voters in this state, Democrat and Republican. It was not passed by the General Assembly. It was passed as an amendment by the people. So, this constant battling with it is just, again, sue to your blue operation. And I will tell you this, the Dems up there that are doing this, there are 4 of them currently out of 7. They're trying to get as many rulings done as possible before the election, because in January 1st, we anticipate taking 1 or 2 of their seats that are up this year for the Supreme Court at the state level and flipping that to Republican heavy. And they don't think they're going to get anything accomplished like they would like to. So this is a political game, and the ID is sad because there's nobody, and I'm not going to, we've talked about this a million times everywhere. You need to vote to do anything. You need to do everything, but which is kind of stupid. And telling people
you may have to say some of that again. Your internet went weird.
They can't possibly get an ID. Well, the state again has offered free ones. They will do everything for you. But tell me one person in this state, unless they live in a mountaintop like a mountain man, that doesn't need an ID to do anything. Not drive, get medicine. I get into a building. The federal courts, the state courts require identification when you go in there. It's fascinating, but not to vote. It's ridiculous.
Well, I know who I am. You're just going to have to trust me.
You're going to have to certify yourself. And some people say you're certifiable.
And I do not disagree. That's why I should not be hosting a morning program on a conservative radio station, but yet here I am.
And you see, we're starting to sound more and more conservative. So, another couple of months, and we'll have you dressed in red, white, and blue. And
actually, that's actually against the law. There is actually a law on the books that you are not supposed to mock the American flag by turning it into clothing.
That's true. That is.
So when I saw Kid Rock in his outfit, I was like, really? Why aren't you in prison?
Well, if you go the same direction, if they've already decreed that, free speech allows you to burn the flag. So I guess you can wear it if you can burn it.
Well, the burning of the flag is actually a ritual that's, I learned about in Boy Scouts.
Yeah, but that's destroying an old flag, not...
Or one that's been, touched the ground, or...
That Boy Scouts do, and the many of the veterans organizations will help properly dispose of flags. That's different than in a protest, taking a perfectly good flag and burning it. My reaction...
It was made in China.
Sorry?
Does it matter if the flag was made in China?
It's the American.
So we paid China to make an American flag to put on a little pine stick, toothpick, send it back over here to wave around at a parade. It gets dropped on the ground.
Okay, well,
now what?
I can't respond to all of that, but I will say that American flag is used to drape a lot of people who made the ultimate sacrifice coming here.
Those flags are real flags. I don't consider the ones that come in little plastic cups to be real flags. The ones... I'm sorry, we've blown right over this hour. and it's just getting more and more into what we consider important and what we consider bannable.
So again, I think we're going to have to put this into another day, sir.
We'll just we'll nibble at it over the coming weeks. How's that?
That sounds like a deal.
And hopefully by then I'll be a little more relaxed.
Oh, you'll be fine.
You have greater faith than I do at this point, sir.
Well, I will always have faith in you, sir.
Well, thank you, and thanks for being here this morning, and we will see you again tomorrow night. And with that in mind, I have to take a break. Sorry?
Real quick, if people want to call tomorrow night, they can talk to Chad directly about doing the show.
Yep. During the show, 910-444-0281. That number will never change. So, with that in mind, I'm going to do this again. Oh, wrong button.
Talk to you soon, my friend.
See you soon. See you tomorrow. Take care. And ladies and gentlemen, we will be right back on The Big Talker right after these messages. Don't go nowhere. You're tuned in to The Big Talker Network, Wilmington, North Carolina's premier internet station for news and talk radio programming. Find us online at bigtalker.live.
This week on All Things Brunswick, our guest will be Chad Adams. Chad will be joining us to discuss recent events in the news and much more. Join us 6 p.m. Tuesday right here on The Big Talker.
Enjoying Big Talker Network is as easy as asking for it. Program your digital home assistants such as Google Home, Alexa, and Siri to stream Big Talker Network content by simple voice command. Enjoy convenient hands-free access to program whenever you want, however you want by asking for Big Talker.
One Love Tennis started in 2013 to give back to young boys and girls. We now go through 460 kids a week that are learning about life skills, learning to succeed in life through academics and tennis. Putting those two together, if you do them well, you can write your own ticket. To get involved in this program, go to our website, one-love-tennis.org.
Hello, I'm Matt Bennett with WWAY News. Law enforcement around the Cape Fear say they are training staff on how to respond to an active shooter situation in schools. The New Hanover County Sheriff's Office held an active shooter training at Anderson Elementary School Saturday morning. More than 60 school resource officers geared up to go to the threat and eliminate the threat, which is the motto of their mission. The Sheriff's Office plans to conduct multiple training sessions of this type throughout the year. After a 2-year hiatus, Coffee with a Cop is back in Brunswick County. The public joined the police chief and officers from the Leland Police Department Saturday at the Starbucks on Leland Town Center Drive for caffeine and conversation. Mugs, pens, and stickers were given away to those who showed up. Officers said the event offers the community an opportunity to ask questions, voice concerns, and get to know the people behind the badge. The monthly event took a pause due to the pandemic. Chief Jeremy Humphrey says it's nice to get back and have meaningful conversations with the community. Renovations to the Riverwalk Visitor Center at the foot of Market Street are scheduled to get underway today. Construction is expected to last for 4 months and includes replacing deck boards and removing the roof and furnishings in the picnic area. The project also includes the addition of new landscaping, decorative overhead string lights, stools, and banner poles. Both the restrooms and visitor information booth of the building will remain open during normal hours. And Surf City officials asked the public to help clean up the beach, and they didn't disappoint. About 250 volunteers rolled up their sleeves, grabbed trash bags and pickers to collect trash found at all 39 beach accesses. Volunteers were shuttled to and from the beach in groups. Surf City spokesperson Misty LaPointe says the family-friendly event is typically held twice a year, once before tourist season starts to welcome visitors, and then toward the end of summer to wrap up the season. For more on these stories, you can head on over to WWAYTV3.com. I'm Matt Bennett. Have a great day.
Happy Monday, everybody. I'm WWAY meteorologist Ramel Carpenter with your Storm Track 3 forecast. Definitely going to be unsettled over the next few days here in the Cape Fear, so be sure to have the rain gear with you if you're going to be out and about at any point in the day today. The best chance to see widely scattered showers and thunderstorms will fire back up this afternoon, as our high temperatures only manage to get into the middle 80s for inland and coastal communities. Overnight tonight, rain chances start to drop down under mostly cloudy skies, but a few showers can't be ruled out for the overnight hours. Temperatures will be falling down into the low to middle 70s. Get your full forecast on WWAY and WWAYTV3.com.
This news and weather is brought to you by 2 Men and a Truck. For your free quote, go to 2menandatruck.com. 2menandatruck.com.
Marine Service Pro and the Tackle Box Seafood, located at 8210 River Road, Southport, is open Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, with the Tackle Box open Monday through Saturday, 7 to 6. Marine Service Pro is a full Suzuki and Tohatsu dealership. They deal in pre-owned boats, full service and repair, with certified technicians in all engines, and fiberglass specialists. The Tackle Box offers fresh, local seafood, live bait, a tackle shop, and fish packing and shipping. They also offer a full-service U-Haul dealership. Spend time with Leon or Jenny for one-stop shopping at Marine Service Pro and the Tackle Box Seafood, 8210 River Road, Southport.
This week on Living Fit After 50, our guest will be Bjorn Mohagen from Best Choice Roofing. Among the topics we'll be discussing is how to protect yourself when hiring a contractor. Join us Fridays at 1 p.m. right here on the Big Talker Network.
Hey, welcome back to the Asylum, your refuge in a world gone mad. Right here on the Big Talker. Here in a few minutes, we will be joined by Paul Valone, Director of Grassroots North Carolina, grnc.org. He's also the host and director and research and all that of the Guns, Politics, and Freedom program that premieres on Saturdays and replays throughout the week right here on the Big Talker. That is when we don't have power issues. Yeah, the storms caused a number of issues recently, but we're okay. I do what I can with what I got right here at the Big Talker. Ah, man. Still upset about this book banning, but gotta leave it alone. I really do. We will be calling our friend Paul Valone here in the next 10 minutes or so. Until then, you get more of my liberal wonderfulness. While I'm here, I should remind everybody to go visit the Big Talker website, bigtalker.live. Peruse the schedule of content. Maybe send an email with any comments, questions, concerns, compliments, or critiques, because we can't improve without your help. And if you would, include in that email a request for a real morning program host, such as Mr. Chad Adams, who's actually an expert on politics and state. You know, he knows these people. He knows what they do. He knows how it works. I don't. I'm a little more simple-minded. You know, I do the work. I make things happen. I do what I'm told for the most part. There are times that if somebody tells me to do something and I disagree, I'm not going to just flat out refuse. I'm going to have a conversation. Hey, I'm not sure I'm comfortable with this. I don't think that that's too much to ask or to expect, right? If you disagree with something, having a conversation about it like an adult is not out of order. But if you whack your rhetoric to a point that it's unrecognizable, I'm no longer interested in talking to you because I'm not talking to an adult. I'm talking to an infant that's regurgitating the crap that somebody else has taught him. Oh, that was pretty. I like the way that happens. I'm a horrible human being, aren't I? I must be. I must be. That's got to be the answer. Because I don't follow any given line. I don't worship any given I don't worship anybody. I have heroes, but none of my heroes are perfect. They were all human. I always had massive respect for Benjamin Franklin, and found a documentary from back in the day, and they did an expose, 48 minutes, commercial-free run, exploring everything about Benjamin Franklin. And his time in France, as, you know, he left America for France hoping to broker a deal, and he returned as a representative of a sovereign state. I mean, that's pretty... Right? You go to France and you're like, man, we need some guns to fight off these redcoat. And he becomes like one of the most popular people in all of France. He brokers deals for us, makes everything absolutely wonderful. And then he becomes a statesman for a sovereign state. The sad part is that when he returned from France, he moved into his new house that his wife had built pretty much for him while he was gone. She died before he returned. All he had left of her is what she had built for him while he was gone. That was pretty heartbreaking. But he seriously believed in what we were doing as a country. And this is the part where I think a lot of us need to settle down, calm down, back off. You may disagree with me, but you can't. Making it personal is a foul on your part. And me making it personal on you is a foul on my part. Because if you honestly believe in what you are arguing, then my ability or my conversation should only be in regards to what the idea is that, you know, in this case, it was banning books. I am against banning books. I am against restricting literature and ideas to anyone. I don't care their age. I do believe that parental oversight, but that's even more terrifying. Have you seen these parents? How many of them are actually doing the homework with their children? That's one of the wonderful things about watching my roommate and their children. They read together. They do their homework together. So the parents are in no way unaware of what their children are learning in school. And then they are allowed to temper it. And in Bill's argument, I can agree with, yes, age appropriateness, that the early part of being a kid, and this is from my own school of education, let them be kids. Let them learn the basics. Let them learn about gravity by falling out of a tree. Let them learn about water by splashing in the sink. Teach them the words that they are going to use. Proper English. Speak in complete sentences. Take away their cell phones. Right? Limit. I mean, in some ways I was pissed off at my parents at the time, but I'm grateful for it now. We didn't have a video game. My cousins did. They had the latest, greatest Atari system or a Sega or whatever. I had a stick. And it wasn't even given to me. I had to get it out of the tree my damn self. So there's a lot about what's going on that I disagree with. And I think a lot of it falls down to personal responsibility. But we have, as a species here in America, and I consider Hominus americanus to be a unique species on the planet. No other country has come up with the idea, hey man, squat trucks are cool. No other country on the planet has squat trucks. You feel me? And any other country that's raising flags up on their pickup trucks and parading around, you know who does that? ISIS does that. So anytime I see a bunch of flags on somebody's truck, I'm thinking, oh look, ISIS Junior. I bet he got himself an assault-style rifle up in that there squat truck with the blinkies on there and lots of bling-bling and the fancy lights that light up under the bottom because I'm too stupid. And my truck is jacked up so high I can't even see the people in front of me, man. But I'm still going to tailgate people because I can't even tell they're there. The moronic baseline needs to be raised. I think bringing back shaming would be a good thing. It worked for me. I was a chubby little kid heading towards obesity, and I got fat shamed. I think I was around age 8 or 9, right? Domestic violence at home, a divorce, pending divorce, and all kinds of chaos into where I'm living. Sure, I'm fat. Okay. I can't control my violent alcoholic father. I cannot do anything about the fact that I'm being shuffled around the country because of my parents, but I can do something about being fat. So you can shame me for having, an abusive alcoholic father. Maybe you can try. That's not on me. But the fact that I was acting out through eating and binging, right? That I did have control over. So I think, honestly, proper shaming is effective. I was called ignorant. I started reading. I don't think I'm as ignorant as I was. I'm still probably ignorant about a lot of things, but I made an effort. A lot of people don't want to make an effort. A lot of people don't even want to read the Constitution. Oh, it's not required in school, so I ain't going to read it. Well, voting with your conscience without understanding how you got that right to vote is kind of scary. Because now you're just going to go in there and say, oh, look, there's that MAGA guy. Click. I like him because he's a MAGA guy. I don't even know if I want you to vote. But we've lost the ability to ask hard questions. All we do is go by the little memes that pop up, and I'm guilty of that myself. And that's where I got called out. And I had to defend myself, and I did. Trying to tell me that what I had posted was fake news. It was fake news. None of these books are on that list. No, man, this is fake news. And I did the research. I looked up each book on that list, along with the word banned, and discovered that indeed every book on that list has been banned by one or more school systems across this country. A Wrinkle in Time, Animal Farm, 1984. Independent of all these weird sex books that they're talking about. Oh my God, this book is all about pornography. No, it's not. Hustler Magazine, American Bear. I mean, there are a number of publications that fit your narrative, but they are not in your school. I promise you that. However, thousands upon thousands of children across this country and millions across the planet have had experiences where they question. And this is my argument about the school system. It's supposed to be the safe place where they can have these awkward experiences and learn from it. Because think about it. Your child at home is in a protected, isolated environment. Then they go to public school and they're going to meet people different than themselves. That's the beginning of the melting pot. And if we can't handle helping these kids understand where they are in this melting pot, then we are doing a disservice to them top to bottom. The school system, any given school, is going to be the ultimate place in which to explore the unusual and the unexpected and unfair. But you're not going to get that by banning books. All you're going to do is make it worse for yourself, really. So, anyway, when we come back, we will have our friend Mr. Paul Valone on with us from Guns, Politics, and Freedom and part of the Grassroots North Carolina. So please don't go nowhere. Is the Asylum your refuge in a world gone mad? Be right back after these messages. I promise. Download the app and send an email asking for Chad Adams in the morning while you're waiting. We'll be right back.
Hello, I'm Matt Bennett with WWAY News. Law enforcement around the Cape Fear say they are training staff on how to respond to an active shooter situation in schools. The New Hanover County Sheriff's Office held an active shooter training at Anderson Elementary School Saturday morning. More than 60 school resource officers geared up to go to the threat and eliminate the threat, which is the motto of their mission. The Sheriff's Office plans to conduct multiple training sessions of this type throughout the year. After a 2-year hiatus, Coffee with a Cop is back in Brunswick County. The public joined the police chief and officers from the Leland Police Department Saturday at the Starbucks on Leland Town Center Drive for caffeine and conversation. Mugs, pens, and stickers were given away to those who showed up. Officers said the event offers the community an opportunity to ask questions, voice concerns, and get to know the people behind the badge. The monthly event took a pause due to the pandemic. Chief Jeremy Humphreys says it's nice to get back and have meaningful conversations with the community. Renovations to the Riverwalk Visitor Center at the foot of Market Street are scheduled to get underway today. Construction is expected to last for 4 months and includes replacing deck boards and removing the roof and furnishings in the picnic area. The project also includes the addition of new landscaping, decorative overhead string lights, stools, and banner poles. Both the restrooms and visitor information booth of the building will remain open during normal hours. And Surf City officials asked the public to help clean up the beach, and they didn't disappoint. About 250 volunteers rolled up their sleeves, grabbed trash bags and pickers to collect trash found at all 39 beach accesses. Volunteers were shuttled to and from the beach in groups. Surf City spokesperson Misty LaPointe says the family-friendly event is typically held twice a year, once before tourist season starts to welcome visitors, and then toward the end of summer to wrap up the season. For more on these stories, you can head on over to WWAYTV3.com. I'm Matt Bennett. Have a great day.
Happy Monday, everybody. I'm WWAY meteorologist Ramel Carpenter with your Storm Track 3 forecast. Definitely going to be unsettled over the next few days here in the Cape Fear, so be sure to have the rain gear with you if you're going to be out and about at any point in the day today. The best chance to see widely scattered showers and thunderstorms will fire back up this afternoon as our high temperatures only manage to get into the middle 80s for inland and coastal communities. Overnight tonight, rain chances start to drop down under mostly cloudy skies, but a few showers can't be ruled out for the overnight hours. Temperatures will be falling down into the low to middle 70s. Get your full forecast on WWAY and WWAYTV3.com.
This news and weather is brought to you by 2 Men and a Truck. For your free quote, go to 2menandatruck.com. 2menandatruck.com.
Marine Service Pro and the Tackle Box Seafood, located at 8210 River Road, Southport, is open Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, with the Tackle Box open Monday through Saturday, 7 to 6. Marine Service Pro is a full Suzuki and Tohatsu dealership. They deal in pre-owned boats, full service and repair, with certified technicians in all engines, and fiberglass specialists. The tackle box offers fresh local seafood, live bait, a tackle shop, and fish packing and shipping. They also offer a full-service U-Haul dealership. Spend time with Leon or Jenny for one-stop shopping at Marine Service Pro and the Tackle Box Seafood, 8210 River Road, Southport.
This week on All Things Brunswick, our guest will be Chad Adams. Chad will be joining us to discuss recent events in the news and much more. Join us 6 p.m. Tuesday right here on The Big Talker.
Oh! Welcome back to the Asylum, your refuge in a world gone mad. Trying to get my phone system up and running. It's causing me a little bit of issue. I believe this is the right number. We will certainly know in just a moment. But hey, as long as I've got your attention, welcome back to the Asylum, your refuge in a world gone mad. Please visit the website. Yep. Hey, there you are, bigtalker.live. I got stuff working. Welcome back to the show, sir.
Well, thank you. Appreciate you having me.
It's been a crazy morning. I apologize for that. Part of it was I was attacked this morning because of my stance on banning books, and I'm still kind of upset about it.
Who attacked you, and what was the premise of the attack exactly?
Well, I committed a sin. I admit. I posted, or I should say I shared a meme on Facebook and was instantly attacked. This is fake news. It's fake news. And I went through the list and looked up each book and determined that, yes, every book on that meme has been banned by a school system or more than one school system across the country. The thing is, many of the books that were on that list are not the ones that everybody's upset with that was done in the last couple of weeks. For example, A Wrinkle in Time has been banned in Florida since 1985. I have a problem with that. I have a real problem with that. I don't know.
When you mentioned this topic, I actually looked up some of them. I'm trying to find what I found here. Some of these books that are banned, quote unquote, removed from school libraries, are
recently.
Well, they're probably not entirely appropriate for kids. For example, here it is. According to the American Library Association, the 10 most challenged books, number 1 on the list, Genderqueer. Okay? Number 2, Lawn Boy. Number 3, All Boys Aren't Blue. And it goes on from there, but tell me something. How many of these books being banned are being banned because we have the LGBTQIA plus community trying to groom children by introducing sexually explicit materials into school libraries?
Okay, so I have to push back.
Go for it.
I don't think it's... Okay, so remember when you were young and you saw your first naked picture? Do you remember that? Every one of us has been through this, right? And at some point, you had your own curiosity, your own questions. Now, a book is nothing more than somebody else's experiences put into place. I don't know if a book itself is going to be indoctrination other than to say that it's okay, like in my case, a book would be challenged because I'm saying that it's okay to be raised in a violent domestic abuse environment.
Okay. So
now, I will say that maybe you don't want to...
Let's take our lieutenant. Take our lieutenant governor for a moment.
All right.
Our lieutenant governor, Mark Robinson, did a little study and drew some heat for this on some of the materials being given to elementary school children. And they included, among other things, a book that contained pictures of boys performing fellatio on other boys. Do you think that's appropriate?
Well, at a certain age. Because there's going to be curiosity.
Elementary school.
Okay, maybe that's a little low. Right?
Okay.
That I can agree with. That I can work with. But again, anything that came to my...
How about the so-called "Don't Say Gay" law in Florida, which, by the way, is nonsense. It had nothing to do with "Don't Say Gay," the one that DeSantis signed into law that Disney tried to either repeal or challenge in court because their LGBTQIA+ community of employees was pushing them to do this, and they wound up losing, I believe it was $34 billion. Their communications director quit, and they lost their special status in Florida.
That should have happened a million years ago anyway, because that was all tax money, right? True. I mean, that was a bucket of money that Disney just wasn't paying up in their fair share, in my opinion. So that was legit.
They could have continued doing that if they kept their mouth shut. But
so in that regard, I'm not gonna cry.
But the point was the legislation itself, although they called it the LGBTQIA+ community tried to call it "Don't Say Gay." Nowhere in the bill did it say anything about referring to anybody as gay. What it said was that you could not introduce sexually explicit material to children at or below the third grade. Now, do we really have to pass legislation now?
Apparently.
That requires that prohibits sexually explicit material from being introduced to kindergartners? I mean, really?
Well, keep in mind
this is ridiculous.
This is the same country that has pedophilia running rampant, and sometimes it's in its own families, where uncles and aunts and grandparents and even moms and dads are committing one of the most heinous sins ever. So, being aware of what's going on, I still have a problem with limiting access to information. I will say that at a certain age group, these concepts, as I learned in the School of Education, one of the courses specifically was cognitive processes in childhood development. And in that, they paralleled what should be taught in school with what they should be taught on the playground. Because keep in mind, when a child is at home, they are in an isolated environment, controlled, primarily dominated by the parents and what the parents believe. So if the parents are Republican, the kids are going to be Republican, right?
Not necessarily, but
by and large, this is the rule. The kids become
but in any case, it's the parents' prerogative to raise that child as a Republican if they prefer. Yes. I mean, it's their child, for crying out loud. Are we going to go to Hillary Clinton's "It Takes a Village" crap? Come on, please.
We should.
That's
no. Here's my argument. Because they've been raised in an isolated environment, the world is an ugly, disagreeable place, and they need to know that. They need to learn how to handle that in a safe space. That's what the school is supposed to be.
Well,
because now you have children that are going to school.
Argument. That's a straw man argument. You know why it's a straw man argument? Because you presume that they're isolated simply because they're being raised and given values by their parents. That's not true. I don't feel I was isolated. My parents gave me values. I wasn't isolated from the world.
I'm not saying isolated from the world, but when you go home, everything in your home is is the way that world is set up. And every one of these is different. Yes? That's
called
wonderful.
Instilling values. It's their option to instill values.
But these values are going to vary across different families. So when you have 1,000 kids going to one school, that's 1,000 different environments, influences, and value sets coming together in one spot. There is no homogeneity to any of this.
Well, that's your rainbow for you. There we go. Diversity.
Exactly.
Don't we cherish diversity now?
Well, if we're not going to talk about it, then we aren't. We aren't.
The left cherishes diversity in terms of as long as diversity in terms of race, and a variety of other things. But they do not cherish diversity of thought. That's
because we're not allowing it. We're banning the books before they're even allowed. Where else are they going to have this type of conversation before they become adults and engage in it in the real world?
I'm sorry, but genderqueer for kindergartners just doesn't cut it for me.
Okay,
dude.
maybe not kindergarten, but at some point before they reach adulthood, these are issues and conversations they need to have somewhere. Life is awkward. Where are you going to learn how to handle being awkward than in a place that's going to be common and safe?
I think that's what parents are for. I think that's what parents
But
are
that's
for.
individual. When you put them together, all these parents are different. So how do you homogenize?
Every generation, well, you don't want it homogenized. That's the point. Okay? If you get things homogenized, what you've got is an autocratic society. Everybody must know this, or everybody must believe that. Okay? No,
that
I'm
Trump
sorry,
is God?
Well, if I choose to teach my kids that, then that's my damn business, isn't it?
Right. So when they come into an environment where other people who don't believe like that, do we want them to have a fight or a conversation? That's my argument.
Now we're talking about mechanisms of conflict resolution, not about the fact that they believe the same thing.
Right. I don't want them to believe the same thing, but I want them to be homogenous in their behavior, approach, and their conversation. For example, I would like all children from age 2, second grade, I have to at least let them know the words, to at least know and read the Constitution. Why isn't if you're going to ban all these other books, the Constitution was banned back in the 80s in school. So if we're going to ban the Constitution,
why aren't we... the Constitution?
All of the civics courses were dropped across the nation in the mid-'80s. 1985 was the last year that, banned is a little far. But for the same guy that attacked me was trying to say that they had put Hustler magazine in the school library. And I'm like, dude, I need to buy weed from you because you must be high.
I can't say I've ever encountered that, but the fact that they removed civics classes in the 1980s, that of course is all part and parcel of the long march through the institutions that you and I have talked about before.
Right.
This multi-generational effort to take over the media, the cultural institutions.
So it should be up
schools.
to the parents. But why aren't the parents reading the Constitution to their kids? Why aren't they having that discussion?
Because unfortunately, at this point, the parents of the people are the leftover 60s children
that never got it. Because I was one of the last school years in my school to be required to take a civics course that spent an entire semester each on the Declaration and on the Constitution.
I can't say that was even ever required of me, at least not specifically that way. But,
it was required before you could graduate. Not only did you have to take your proficiency test, which had been introduced in the early 80s, that, hey, this kid's graduating high school and he knows how to match verb and subject. Okay, that was pretty stupid. But the one that really got me was when the next year they weren't requiring kids to take civics courses and they were no longer required to discuss the art, because part of the one of the exercises is we had to argue from the papers that the individual framers had. Their arguments for this, for that, many of whom were still considered themselves British. Oh, it was beautiful. But it's gone now.
Well, that's a rather different matter. First off, they didn't ban it, okay? They simply stopped teaching it. That's a rather different thing. And second of all, they shouldn't have done that, because if there is one thing that we should be teaching homogeneity of, it would be the our traditions and our American culture.
Amen.
But I'm sorry, but genderqueer and lawn boy don't fall under that category.
But I will say that in the range of human experience, somewhere, because I taught in middle school, and there's this interesting, and it's in the same course, because this course is like it's 2 semesters long, where in the development of the child the range is somewhere between 10 and 18, but normally around 14 to 16 years of age, there's this massive hormone dump in the body, boys and girls, and all kinds of weird things happen to the body and to the physiology of the brain.
That doesn't create a necessity to introduce genderqueer in the library.
Stop. Wait. I'm not done. Because as they go through this experience, they are going to have questions. They are going to be curious. And they're going to wonder, has anybody else felt like this, or should I be ashamed for having these thoughts?
Well, I don't think it's bothered anybody for the last several hundred years.
Okay.
So, here's what I see in terms of our book bans on the rise in the U.S. I'm reading this from USA Today. Yes, the American Library Association keeps track of challenges and bans across the country, and the most recent data is alarming. In 2021, the ALA recorded 729 book challenges targeting 1,597 titles. That's more than double 2020's figures, and the highest number since the organization began recording data in 2000. Now, here's the thing. Is it that people are targeting more books to ban, parents in particular, I imagine, in school libraries, because I don't think we're talking about banning books in public libraries? So is it that, or is it that maybe the LGBTQIA plus community is trying to shove more stuff into libraries that is unacceptable and drawing a larger number of bans?
Okay, then why has A Wrinkle in Time been banned since 1985 in Florida?
Couldn't address that. I have no clue.
Now, it is a good book, but one of the two primary issues in their challenge of this book is that the protagonist was a strong female character. That was number one.
Mm-hmm.
Number two was the fact that the passage from one of the characters is suggesting that Jesus wasn't special. I mean, he was smart and he was a good teacher, but he wasn't divine. And that there were other religious figures and forms, such as Buddhism and Judaism, that are just as legitimate as a spiritual guide as Christianity is. That's why it's banned. It's banned in Alabama in 1990 because it was a religious content.
Well, I'm sure you're going to find some Bible thumpers here and there that are going to ban books like that. But on the other hand, here we have, let's see here, the Bible is among dozens of books banned from a Texas school district.
So that's Texas.
Students,
the same, yeah, okay.
Well,
that's a conservative state, right?
The Bible.
Yeah.
Okay, and by the way, not all of Texas is conservative. Austin, in particular, remember the Asheville actually stole its motto from Austin. Keep Asheville weird. It was originally keep Austin weird. They're not even, the leftists aren't even original. But
none of us are.
They banned Anne Frank's diary. They banned all versions of the Bible. And a variety of other things. Now, you can't convince me that is a conservative attempt to ban the Bible. So, who's behind this exactly?
That's what's been interesting is that the push depends on the slant of that school board, or that, like, since one of the articles pointed out that everything was fine and dandy, and everything had already been approved, and everything was set, and then the school board election happened. And they lost like 11 seats, and a majority of those new members were actually part of the commission that said, no, all these books are now banned. And they changed it within 24 hours of their first meeting.
Well, that's probably because they ran on that platform, and parents elected them on that platform. We have this going on right now. I just read in North Carolina, we've got the Education First Alliance, which seems to be a very effective group of conservative parents trying to keep critical race theory and LGBTQIA plus stuff out of the libraries, in school libraries. And apparently that's in Moore County, I guess it's a big deal right now. There's an election running for the school board there, the Board of Education, and they have apparently 3 conservatives and 4 leftists. Of course, they don't call themselves leftists; they call themselves moderates. Remember, in our political system, we have only the extreme right and moderates. Extreme left no longer exists, at least as the left would have you believe. So, in any case, this is an ideological war that's going on. I think if you see different sides trying to ban books. That level of intolerance is coming from a schism in our society. We know we are no longer one America. We are now two Americas.
Yep, and that's a problem.
Of course it's a problem. I maintain that, this problem could develop into a shooting war, quite frankly.
Oh, it already has.
And to a certain extent. I do believe that, and we talked about, after the raid on Mar-a-Lago, we started seeing various entities act up against the FBI, and I'm not surprised. I can't honestly say I blame them. There becomes a point at which
it becomes dangerous.
There becomes a point at which one or the other or both sides can look at something and say, this is no longer reconcilable.
That hurts. I mean, because the ability to disagree should not impact the ability for us to live and work together. Right? But the thing is,
I don't dispute that.
But I think that it becomes a very, very slippery slope when we start to pick and choose what information people can have access to. I will give you that there is an age appropriateness to some of this, but I would still argue, as an experience, in the School of Education, that letting the children develop parallel their intellect, their use of the English language, their understanding of math and science, should develop parallel with their emotions, but they should be given a safe space, which is what school, to me, was supposed to be, for them to have these awkward, where they're questioning something they may not understand. Why is Bobby wearing a dress? Should I hate him for it?
Well, but
that's what some of these books are there for, is to help these kids come to terms with what they don't understand, especially if they go to their parents and their parents are almost violent about it.
Well,
where are they going to ask these questions?
That may be unfortunate, but the fact is the school, in that particular case, is not in loco parentis. They are not their legal guardians. The legal guardians are their parents.
Well, the parents certainly treat them like it.
Treat what like what?
So when I had trouble in school, my parents went to the teacher and said, "Why are you screwing up my child?" I had to point out to my parents that, yes, I'm still passing the tests, but it's me being a butthead. It's not my teacher's fault. My teacher's doing a great job. I'm the problem. I don't know why you're yelling at the teacher for what you need to address with me. That changed the dynamics of our family almost immediately.
You were an exceptional child, TK. We don't doubt that.
I was an incorrigible child. That was the problem.
But
and we need more of that, I think.
All of these, all of this stuff.
Because where else can you ask these questions? Because you don't want to turn to your mom and say, I think Bobby's kind of cute. He looks good in a dress. Where else are you going to address these things that it's like, these people end up committing suicide because they're so scared or so indoctrinated to think that it's evil to even have that thought?
Well, once upon a time, you used to address that with members of the clergy, but that's, of course, no longer.
Well, I think that's a bad idea. I mean, that's its own evil. But that's me. I mean, from the first day of the whole church school thing, I was looking at him like, really? I know how a chicken is born. You're going to tell me that Bing and a piece of dirt became conscious and able to speak a full language? I'm just, you lost me. And from that point on, my parents knew I was going to be a problem.
Let me go back to my original point, however.
All right.
Lest we digress. We're seeing this same characteristic in a variety of ways in our society. We see it in government, where we've got a 50-50 United States Senate that deadlocks on most items. We see this in social media forums where cancel culture is eliminating conservatives from Twitter and Facebook and a variety of other platforms, and that now a conservative social media platform, Truth Social, has been created. We're seeing conservative news sources and leftist news sources. We're seeing conservatives and leftists both trying to ban books.
Would you have considered Walter Cronkite a conservative?
No, Walter Cronkite was a one-worlder. He was a leftist of the first order. He didn't advertise it until he retired.
And Dan Rather?
Dan Rather, the Dan? You mean the guy who who came up with the documents that claiming that George W. Bush had avoided the military, and he came up with these documents, except, oops, they were all right, justified. And
what about that Peter guy? What was his name? He had his hair screwed in place.
But the Dan was funny as hell because he got booted from, I think it was CBS, was it? Because he wanted to believe this stuff, and everybody's going, "Oh, well, that was a Karl Rove trap that he set for him." Well, you know what? If it was a Karl Rove trap, I guess he fell for it because he wanted to believe that stuff so much, he didn't properly vet the material. So, yeah, Dan Rather was a leftist of the first order.
Because these are all the journalists that everybody seemed to, what's the word I'm looking for, damn near worship from, back in the 70s, right, Revere. And I remember my dad watching PBS NewsHour and watching those guys go off. But I didn't understand it. I was like 7 or 8 at the time, and my parents weren't having that discussion with me. And that's where I think that slippery slope needs to be more on parents, where we actually have parents brought to task.
At that point in time, bear in mind that the leftism was not nearly as overt as it is today. And people like Walter Cronkite still maintained at least the veneer of objectivity. Somewhere about in the 1990s, journalism began to change.
And so did politics.
This was the rise of what I call advocacy journalism. And it's funny, one of my grassroots North Carolina members sent me a clipping from the Charlotte Observer of a letter that I wrote the Charlotte Observer back in about 1995. Okay,
nice.
And I was denouncing what I then called the rise of advocacy journalism. And the guy sent it to me because what I predicted is exactly what has happened. Not only do journalists no longer even try to be objective, they don't believe that even should be a goal. They believe their goal is to slant the news and to slant what you read and see in order to advocate a political agenda.
Okay, I have to push back. They're actually doing it to make money.
No, they're
That's
not.
how you sell cars and cars.
No,
yeah, because Fox is
no.
is not broadcasting liberal news. They're broadcasting to their base. CNN is broadcasting to their base.
If that was true, then we wouldn't have the incredible shrinking newspapers we have today.
Oh, that's
all right.
Given. I knew that was coming 20 years ago.
I pick up a copy of the Charlotte Observer, and that newspaper is now smaller than the newspaper I grew up with in my town of 40,000
because it costs a lot more than it does to publish online.
No, because
just because the media
they don't have any advertisers anymore, and they don't have any advertisers.
Right. Same with radio. That's why we're struggling.
Because nobody reads the paper anymore, even online.
Nobody listens to the radio anymore. And it's the same.
No, they listen to talk radio. No, I'm sorry.
That's
Sean
probably the highest of them all is going to be the talk radios. But
right, Rush Limbaugh would if he were still alive, he would disagree with you.
But Sean it's still Hannity, dying. I mean, it's lower than it ever was.
The will cow majority, whatever. There's a whole bunch of them out there. No, radio is actually quite popular at this point, and has remained so. As a matter of fact, it's pretty wild because I have satellite radio and I drive back and forth long distances periodically, and it's amazing what's
out there.
The advertising goes on Fox News because obviously there are a lot of truckers and a lot of
and they're selling to their base.
CEOs. Yeah, absolutely.
And that's why I left the news department.
You can't convince me. I'm sorry, you cannot convince me that media organs do what they do only for money. That ship sailed a long time ago. These are the people these are the radicals who've been radicalized in universities, thanks to, Antonio Gramsci and the Long March to the Institutions. They've been radicalized long ago, and they are advocates because they are the anointed and you are a peasant. And they want to run your life because they feel they're more qualified to run your life than you are.
Now, I'm going to guess that this is part and parcel of what's in Rules for Anti-Radicals, your book that's available now on Amazon and on your website, correct?
Ooh, nice plug. Thank you. Yes, you are correct. Actually, part one of that book.
Now, this book should not be banned any more than the Bible should be banned, and everybody should read it so that they can either agree or disagree with it based on what's in the book rather than on what Paul says on my show.
If it's any help, I understand from one of the people that bought a copy of my book to give to his former girlfriend, who's a lefty out in San Francisco. I understand that my book has since been burned at least once.
Let's hope they at least had a weenie roast with it or something. I mean,
but yes, part one of the book is called Boot Camp for Conservative Activists. And basically, it does bring people into the fold and explain to them how we got to where we are today, beginning with the Frankfurt School in the 1920s. And it's Institute for Social Research, Marxist intellectuals, and how the Frankfurt School has impacted modern American thought. So, yes, absolutely. And, of course, part two of the book is for people who want to become a little bit more involved, and that's grassroots mobilization, the fundamentals of that. And then part three of the book is for people who are in it for the long haul, people who want to create grassroots organizations and go out and kick political tail, if you will. So, yeah, Amazon.com or rulesforantiradicals.com, rulesforantiradicals.com.
And on Saturday morning? Or Saturday afternoon?
Yeah. Saturday, you have me at 1, I believe, right?
And then at noon throughout the week.
Sunday.
11 throughout the week.
11.
Yep.
You're terrible at times.
I am. See, once I program it, I forget about it. I go on with my life. The computer
Sunday
takes
at 5,
care of it.
Too.
Yes.
And Sunday at 5, too.
Because it's important to run it several times so that if you can't catch it Saturday at 1, you can catch it Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. No excuse. And there's no excuse for you not already having the book in your hands because we've plugged it and, Amazon, the website, Grassroots North Carolina. If you don't have the book, that's on you. To the listeners, not you. You wrote it. I hope you have a copy.
I got a few of them lying around, yeah. Got a few of them.
Now, unfortunately, I've overrun the time that I have allotted. Thank you, Paul, for being here and putting up with me. It's been fun.
My pleasure. Pleasure as always. Have a good one, sir.
And if I don't see you before next week, we will see you on Monday.
Righto.
Take care. And boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, the Asylum is going to close its doors for the day. And with that in mind, I will set you free. You may go on your own way and read your own books. And we will see you tomorrow on the Asylum. And for all of those of you who understand the Russian language, Bliat. You're tuned in to the Big Talker Network, Wilmington, North Carolina's premier internet station for news and talk radio programming. Find us online at bigtalker.live.
Hello and welcome to Consumer Choice Radio broadcasting on Saga 960 AM and on the